Good day everyone, Dr. Blob here. You know my main brand? To analyze our operators' mental stability and suggest treatment depending on their respective circumstances? My flagship series, if you will. Which only has 3 videos so far. Look, there's a reason I need event levels of information, or a manhwa, to properly delve into what deals them. But what about the opposite? What about those operators who appear to be completely deranged, yet they fit right into roads without causing any trouble on board? Well, that's what we will be diving into today. An analysis of those operators who seem to be a danger to society, but in actuality are just misunderstood, or want to be misunderstood in some cases. So, to have something to expand my brand with while waiting for more backgrounds to be released, let's begin this new series. This is Are They Stable? Here we will be looking at operators that don't look the part, yet with some proper analysis we can see they are mentally stable enough to function outside the field of combat. But first of all, what do I mean by stable? In psychology, there is no such thing as being sane, relatively speaking. We all have something in some degree. Just as our body always has a virus of bacteria in it, the mind works in a similar way, with shadows always lurking around in the back of our minds, yet in such a degree we never notice them. This is what we denominate as being stable, despite being through what some would call some shit. These individuals manage to move on, either because they have great elasticity of mind, work through their issues in order to move forward, or downright revel in said shit. TLDR, you can be a complete jerkface, yet you can still be considered stable. With the explanation out of the way, let's introduce our very first subject of study for this series, the one and only Flamebringer. You do remember he's a character in the game, right? Right? Flamebringer, a sarcasm with a love for combat and the thrill of fighting those stronger than him, fully aware that his end will most likely come at the hand of an enemy. For him, dying of old age, or rather aureopathy, will be a disgrace, so it works out for him. Seeing sparring as mere play not worthy of his time, and focusing only on staying alive until his next fight. Or that is what most would take at a first glance. It is hard to see, but there is an actual archetype for his character. One very famous in fact. He is a bushi, a warrior whose whole life has been dedicated to combat. No cows to follow, no lord to serve, just people to cut. In layman terms, Flamebringer is more of a samurai than the actual samurai character. So the next question being, what is a samurai? The simple answer will be a warrior case from Japan's warring periods. But then what makes a samurai? Wielding a katana, wearing armor, and fighting for a lord? You see, being a samurai was much more than that. It was a lifestyle, a state of mind. Explaining what a samurai's mind is would be a whole video on itself. So let's cut things short here, and focus on the aspects in which both the ancient warriors and our power creed guard have in common, and how his character is a modern interpretation of the way of the sword. First, I would like to look at what most will see on him as a danger to others, his bloodlust and his detachment. It is easy to understand, especially in today's peaceful world, yes, even for Terra's standards, how someone who only lived for battle will be the complete opposite. Why will someone long for war? Considering he spent all of his life as a sarcasm warrior, for Flamebringer, battle is everything he has ever known. So for him, he's not so different as someone enjoying their respective job. It so happened to involve killing and a high risk of dying. However, here I would like to point out, his bloodlust is strictly reserved for 2 things, the battlefield and those he deems as worthy opponents. He isn't picking fights with anyone when outside the job, and when on it, he only fights those willing to. He doesn't fight those unarmed, neither go after those fleeting. He is no warmonger slaying everything that moves, but rather, he sees combat as something reserved for those willing to die in it. This is very in line with the Bushido, which saw combat as something only warriors should partake in. As seen in some of his lines, Flamebringer follows this mentality to the letter, so while he enjoys bloodshed, he knows where his job begins and where it ends. The ability to separate this from his civilian life shows a very stable mind, regarding conflict at least. If I should compare it with something, it would be a professional fighter. Both look scary and will surely wipe the floor with you should you incite their anger. But that's the thing, why would you go and pick a fight with such an individual? I didn't use this analogy randomly, as many professional fighters took the sport as a way to channel their emotions in a more productive way, allowing them to have more calm lives when outside of the ring. And thus, I can determine that, while strange for common standards, Flamebringer has no ill for those around him. So long they let him be, he will do the same in return. Next one will be his detachment from others, keeping to himself and focusing only on keeping in good shape for the next deployment. It seems like his focus is only for combat, yet many will be surprised by his main hobby, flower keeping. Granted, his reason for it seems to be a bit morbid, nurturing something beautiful only to see it die. But you see, that's exactly what the samurai mentality was back in the day. Duty and loyalty aside, the Bushi mentality made them aware of their own mortality. They will kill many, yet were fully aware that they will most likely end the same way. For them, it was only natural. Wind blows the clouds, the sun warms the land, warriors die by the blade. It was such a part of their life that much of what they did outside of fighting was related to that fact. It kept them grounded, stopping their ego from causing them a dishonorable defeat. Thus, his detachment is not meant to be a lack of empathy nor arrogance from his part. For Flamebringer, to hone his skills and prove himself in the battlefield is what brings him joy. Everything else is void. You see, while doing research for this video, there was one book being suggested again and again, which pretty much describes not only Flamebringer, but most of the warriors in Rhodes Island. That book being The Book of Five Rings by Miyamoto Musashi. Personally, I am not a fan of self-improvement books. Most times, they are just sappy writings meant to be a momentary solution for big problems, mostly meant to keep the reader engaged with the books, normally a series, instead of looking for the readers to become independent. I won't deny it. There are good books out there, especially when written by those who actually know what they are talking about, and look for the improvement of the readers. This book is of the later category. In 5 parts, Earth, Fire, Wind, Water, and Nothingness, Musashi explains what he believed to be the best way to achieve perfection in your craft, either man-cutting or poetry, focusing on the improvements one should take in order to achieve what he called voidness, the mastery of one's craft. So if you feel like you are at an impasse in your life, I will highly suggest giving this book a read. Returning to our topic, this book describes Flamebringer personality to a T. As mentioned, he doesn't act distant because he doesn't want to be near others. He simply doesn't see the point of doing so, yet at the same time, he doesn't act violent nor aggressive. In fact, he seems to be one of the better behaved operators we have. As for his bloodlust, well, I have to repeat myself, that's all he has ever known. Yet unlike other mercenaries we have seen, he doesn't fight for resentment nor for a cause, he fights for the sake of fighting. Simple as that. So while strange for normal standards, I have to admit that, yeah, Flamebringer is a completely stable individual. He is neither a risk for himself nor for others. He can follow orders in the battlefield and live peacefully when out of it. He just loves his craft, and his craft is fighting to the death. With this, we finished the very first entry of this new series, which I hope can help me space out the psychological ones. But what do you think? Do you think there are more information worthy to discuss? Or do you think there are other operators worthy to analyze in this way? Be sure to comment it down below, as it will give me ideas to see how to make another one of these videos. By the way, I would like to thank the awesome members at my Discord who helped me to come with this series name. Personally, I have never been that good at naming, so it is great to have been aided by brighter people. So if you feel like helping out with ideas and suggestions or just chat nonsense, be sure to join my Discord. I like to see it as a calm place to pass the time between friends. For now, this has been Dr. Blob, wishing you all a great time. Thanking you for your interest this far. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, as that will let me meet even more awesome people. And as always, stay healthy everyone.